and redevelopment of cities through all four of these lenses, the practical realities of market and economics, not just what are our goals and what should the drawing look like. And so I want to emphasize that we're making every effort to put together the best vision of this area that we think can practically be implemented. And so we wanted to do that in a way that is take inspiration from. You all asked for, one of the questions you all had, what are some examples of master plan developments in other college towns and communities that have been implemented? And this is one in Blacksburg. This is the corner of their community. Their community also very concerned about maintaining, small town character. And this was the one quadrant of their downtown that they picked that said, where they said, okay, I think the benefits of, making all of this auto-oriented, fast food drive-through development go away, in favor of student housing development that had meaningful public space, created real streets. This is where they agreed to allow that to happen under certain conditions. And so actually we did this plan with the city. The university has subsequently become a partner in this, and you can see the first project out of this is almost complete. So this is a town master developer university partnership. The plan, we did that in 2018. This first project came out of the ground in 2020. So it does, and it's just, nearing completion now. So these things do take time. This is an example at Ohio State. And you'll see a recurring theme here. Larger land assembly means that you can have devote space to meaningful public space, like parks. Most of this project is built at this point, including student housing, non-student housing, and actually a hotel that you see here. There's a junior Target in the ground floor of one of these spaces. But again, it's what assembly allows you to do: create meaningful block structures, workable block structures, quality sidewalks, and public space. And lastly, one that we've worked on in various capacities for Washington University in St. Louis and the neighborhood of Parkview Gardens. And again, large-scale assembly that enables you to aggregate public space in ways that are meaningful instead of little spaces here and there. Pedestrian alleys, meaningful green space, and architecture that community wanted, and the corner grocery store. So we wanted to share those examples. There were also questions we can share. We can talk about a lot of this in much more detail. I just wanted to share two other things because, one of the questions is, what if we, keep things under existing zoning? And, there's what zoning allows, and then there's what it encourages when we think about market context. So the reality is the land's very expensive. One of the few things that's allowed that is really economically viable is drive-through kind of fast food restaurants. So, we would expect you to see more proposals like, drive-through like Dunkin' Donuts. That's something that's very recently approved. I think it speaks to kind of the character of an economically viable development. Now, that's not the only thing. There's more detail to talk about, but that's part of the reality. And I also wanted to talk about something that this plan and that we're putting forward in the framework is making every attempt to avoid, which is kind of an earlier iteration of student housing that's done with, you're going to hear us use the term parcelized development a lot. And what we mean is, little to no assembly of larger spaces, which then, makes it incumbent upon the developer to maximize the development of that land. It leaves very little opportunity to aggregate public space in any way that's meaningful. It provides limited to no opportunity for reasonable setbacks to create opportunities for wide sidewalks. We're going to talk and we're going to take you through some public space and some of the community benefits, but when you hear us talk about wide sidewalks and meaningful streets and streets that lead to places, this is a street that basically goes to nowhere. It's a sidewalk that nobody's ever going to really want to use. And so that's what aggregating larger spaces helps you do, is create better street environments, and that can be a really impactful and important part of public space. And so we want to share that with you when we're thinking about what are the options of not doing some kind of overlay that really encourages aggregation of larger assembly and economically viable land use. The alternatives are, in many cases, for this site, because of the land cost, I think less than what you all would consider to be desirable. So, it kind of takes these four approaches to development: no changes to the code, new overlay that does not allow for student housing, and really these latter two that we're going to share with you, which is an overlay that maximizes student housing and community benefits, an overlay that prioritizes kind of a mix of student and non-student housing. Won't provide as many community benefits, but it'll provide a mix. So we want to be clear that that's what we're going to walk you through, and then we can come back and talk about some of the market and legal framework that and how we might look at all four of these through a particular lens. So really quickly, community benefits. The project that we're analyzing would create, if it were all student housing, would create a significant project surplus, plus property tax revenue, plus business tax revenue, or revenue E, as a little formatting mistake on my part, and impact fees would create a significant revenue stream to fund community priorities that came up in the public meetings: Abernathy Park expansion, and creek restoration, and retail space, activate the waterfront and the nature playscape, potentially an outdoor venue, new roads, and frankly new streets, meaning with high quality streetscape. You could choose to allocate some of that money in different ways, fewer on-site benefits, and you can devote more of that funding toward citywide priorities too. It's your choice. But what we're doing is really visualizing. We want to be clear, visualizing how that revenue could be used to create on-site benefits here. And it's also worth mentioning, a lot of what you'll see is making some things go away that need to go away. Curb cuts that create for a lot of dangerous turning movements on Tiger Boulevard, for example. Removing some eyesore properties and vast expanses of asphalt, creating street connections where there aren't any now. Parking garages that support business on College, which is one of the challenges that is one of the reasons for vacant storefronts on College. Anchor retail that will also help as part of a business strategy. We heard from several of you the importance of small business. There's strategies in here to help build storefronts with viable businesses. And students in housing that generates relatively fewer overall trips per day than it will in other locations in the city and region. So I want to go into concept illustrations, really walk you through this, what the possibilities are, what those benefits could look like. And then we'll pause. Hopefully there's time for Q&A. And if we need to get to this other piece of a follow-up call, we're obviously happy to do that. So I want to walk you back to this place, and it's worth saying this is an area that is unconnected, disjointed, doesn't feel like a district, doesn't feel like anything walkable. In many cases, to get from one side of this triangle to the other, you've got to go back on the main road. And it does generate a significant amount of traffic, frankly, more than it needs to, because all the access points are on the main road. This is in 2 dimensions. What we're going to walk you through today with 3-dimensional renderings and illustrations. And so you'll see lots of new street connections, only one curb cut on Tiger, and interestingly, removal of an entire street, actually shift, frankly, of Kiwi over here, which is going to create great opportunity for bike and pedestrian thoroughfare and great connectivity in an enhanced and increased amount of public space. But by far, or by no means, is that the only, but we think public amenity that we think you all will be excited about. So We're actually going to start over here. We're going to kind of walk you through this development. We're going to start at the corner of Tiger and College. And when you see these kind of things, what we mean is you're looking this way. So imagine looking this way into what is the Starbucks today. And we want to help you visualize what that could be. And one of the things we wanted to do was create a retail anchor here that maximizes the visibility from Tiger, but starts to turn the corner of that retail energy onto College. So we want to help you build storefronts. We want to help small businesses get activity. But equally importantly, we wanted to create a gateway to College Avenue that really becomes the front door of your community, your downtown, your Main Street environment that says, hey, this is, you are entering our space, our home, like so many great college towns and great college town Main Streets do, let you know you're entering something special. And so, you know, the idea is some kind of retail anchor, could be a junior Target, probably more likely some kind of grocer, having some great gateway signage, maybe a sculptural element, and wide sidewalks, outdoor seating, and opportunities for businesses and public space. So this is what it looks like today, and this is a rendering of what it could look like. And you know, one of the interesting things is, and this is the quirk of the topography that we tried to take advantage of, there are much taller buildings behind here that we're drawing, 4- and 5-story buildings, but you can't see them because of the topography. One of the things that we were trying to accomplish is when you're entering this Main Street to have relatively low density impact or feel, and in the place of that, again, the opportunity for meaningful public space, sculptural elements, and that retail that anchor that's gonna help kind of turn the corner for that retail energy from vehicular retail to more pedestrian oriented storefronts in an environment that's really consistent with what we think the expectation is in a college town. You can also see much wider sidewalks and planting and buffering along Tiger, which is possible when you remove curb cuts and move the buildings back. So where we think the real magic happens, though, is when you kind of turn the corner here, and now we're looking in this direction at this larger plaza space. So we want to show you, because I know when we look at this, it's sometimes easy to overlook some of these spaces, but great urban districts have a variety of public spaces. We're going to show you some big ones, over by Abernathy. But small spaces are really important too. And, you know, here's an idea of what that could look like. And this is the power of having some kind of anchor retail right at the corner. It starts to benefit the storefronts that are adjacent to it. So, you know, we know that several of you, again, have said, you know, we want to see small business here. This is how you benefit and help storefronts not only survive, but thrive. It's by having that anchor that brings people in. They park their car, and now there's opportunities to engage in all kinds of commerce. That bookstore, that cafe, that restaurant. And you've got public space that also serves as that anchor, places to park your bike, outdoor dining. That was something that came up in so many public meetings, wanting those opportunities. And I live in St. Louis. We have hot and humid summers. We know you all do too. It's so important to have, you know, wide, broad spaces for tree planting and creation of shade. And so we tried to create that. We're going to take you to a couple of other public spaces, but want to just take you down Tiger for a moment. And this is what it is today. We walked out there many times. It's more than we would have liked at some level. It's not a pleasant place not a place I think anybody would ever consider taking a stroll, a leisurely stroll, right? 5 to 7 foot sidewalks, 5 to 7 foot tree lawn, and lots of curb cuts and vehicular conflicts. And so, you know, this is the benefit of, through redevelopment and having overall density and aggregation of sites. What you can do is you can make the economics work in such a way that you can bring the buildings back a bit and have 20-foot sidewalks. That 10-foot tree buffer, that's all the more space you have right now. But if you could make use of that has purely buffered and plant trees, have broad sidewalks, that starts to feel like a comfortable, inviting place. And you know, there's a lot of different building approaches you could take. Maybe you have retail, but also having architectural styles that can work without retail, because there isn't, you know, that provides maximum flexibility while also having architectural interest at a human scale. This is what having one curb cut allows as well. Then I want to take you, we want to take you down College Avenue and look at this location now, which is something we're really excited about. We've talked about the opportunity to daylight the creek. This is something a lot of cities are doing. It's great for the environment. Also can become a great amenity in your city. And it's got this really interesting point where it to go into the street and then reemerge and create a really great public space in what is today the Army Corps property. Frankly, a lot of topography. And so what we did was imagine this not as kind of this like backwater drainage, home for invasive species, but rather something that could be maintained and enhanced into an amenity. And so this is what it is today. Okay, Circle K site, and the creek really runs, if you can see my cursor, runs right under here. And so this is a rendering of one potential approach of how this could not only be daylighted, but create that connection, that front door to the lake from College Avenue. When we came to Clemson, what we thought was so special was how close the lake is to a college town, what has potential to be really thriving college town Main Street environment. So we wanted to figure out a way to bring water, bring a real entrance of water that you could follow from College Avenue all the way down to the lake. And this created kind of a perfect opportunity to do that. So you can imagine development along here. Again, maybe like restaurant, outdoor dining. This is not a big space. When you look at the plan, this looks really tiny. But again, small spaces can be really impactful. And so the idea is you could kind of pick this up here and kind of follow along. This could be kind of the trailhead to get down to the water, and you could follow it along. And there's a number of ways to do that. What I want to do is look at it from this direction now. So imagine you're here in Abernathy and you're looking back this way. And so, the opportunity here, because there's some pretty steep topography, so something more like a boardwalk would be the best way to address getting somebody down here. You can imagine kind of snaking along this waterfront, okay, starting out here in College. And this would be that opportunity to kind of really engage with this space, engage with the water, and make your way all down to Abernathy Park. We also looked for opportunities to activate the Abernathy side, which we'll share with you in a minute, with dining, outdoor plazas, and you'll see several opportunities for that as well. So, there's different approaches, some more hardscape, some more natural, that could be, worked through. Again, these are initial concepts that could be made to work. And we wanted to take you inside there a little bit to understand. Sometimes great big spaces and parks are great, but a lot of times in a urban environment, having a sense of enclosure, the buildings can become a great way to frame a smaller space. Too close in feels too crowded, too far out it feels too open. So one of the things we want to do is, and one of the things that aggregating a lot of land and assembling land enables you to do is move buildings forward and backward a little bit to achieve the right quality of space. And so you can imagine being in this space. This is something that's, open to the public, open to every resident of Clemson year round, to really enjoy, what could be a great water amenity. And there's nothing like water amenities to really, serve as an attraction and a destination. This becomes an anchor, really, that again, it's going to help local business and and be really available to everyone. So again, making a lot of use of topography. This is just one artist rendering. This could be more hardscape like what you're seeing here. It could be more naturalized. Those are all things that you could work through. And last but certainly not least, we wanted to take you through an enlarged and greatly enhanced Abernathy Park, and visualize what that could be. And so this is the street. This is Kiowee as it is today. So this would all be vacated and turned into a greenway. There's a parking lot here that would be made into usable public space. The parking could be replaced with a mix of on-street and with available structured parking, and you can kind of pick up the bike and pedestrian way and walk down here. So, okay, so let me see. There's one there, but I think, you all can see where we are. We're just kind of looking down this way. And this is what it looks like today. You can see the street, you can see the parking lot. And here's what it could become. This is one approach to doing this, right? So where there was a parking lot, now there is a playscape, a naturescape for families. There is no vehicular conflict here. There is bike and pedestrian way. The street gets moved over this way. This is all park space. We also heard a lot of requests to activate the space and create a real destination for restaurants. So, part of the opportunity is the public realm, having some of those active spaces, nature playscape, playground, but also having some passive green spaces, and maybe doing a thing, combination of trees and other types of canopies to create that shade that you can have in the summer months that you can then take away in the winter months when people need to, want the warmth of the sun. Potential could be, depending on market demand. We think there's definitely a market for a hotel here, but there could be, further outdoor dining or commerce in some of these spaces. The opportunity exists for more active uses like a kayak rental, having that lakefront dining, maybe a beer garden. These are all ideas that kind of came out of the planning effort. And, also, this could be a great way, it could be some great gateway signage. So you think of, kind of a regional greenway system, but this could really be the gem. This could be the destination bed. We found that that's one of the really important things about having a greenway. It's great to have the greenway, but to have a place to stop, to start your journey or to end, kind of celebrate that journey, something that really encourages use of the greenway. And so, and having that sort of, gateway signage, right? So again, thinking about Tiger and what it is and what it looks like today. And it is the way that, that's a lot of people's relationship with the city of Clemson. And that could be greatly enhanced. And there's opportunities to let people know, hey, there's great things that our community is doing right on the other side of the street. And then I want to kind of, okay, so we looked in one direction. Now I kind of want to go the other direction and get you down to the ground a little bit and see a rendering again of what's kind of possible at the human scale. So now we're here and we're looking back in this direction. This is what it looks like today. This is the road. This is the parking lot. And here's a way that we could imagine this, what we could imagine this becoming. So what was once road is now, now bike and jogging, right? No street to cross here, lakefront dining. This could be relatively more or less, depending on how much you want as a community and what the market demand is. But a lot of times when you create a place like this, you're starting to create a destination that's really going to help grow the opportunities for business. But also having that, we want, a lot of what we heard is the need for this place to be inclusive. This is these would be park amenities that are designed for families that could be, open to everyone. And so it could be naturescapes are more popular now they kind of work with natural elements and work with natural topography, which you do have a lot of. So that's something that could be, again, this is one rendering. These things could all be worked out in a lot more detail. To think about the programming of this, could have more formal playground elements or informal elements. Splash pads, very popular. You know, the idea is really for this to be, you know, it kind of destination for Clemson residents. And yeah, kind of the, you know, there's just other precedent imagery to think about some of the activities, some of the experiences that you could have, which you can, it kind of, once you start to look at it, the vision starts to take shape. And with passive green space, you know, opportunities for exercise, opportunities to do public art installations over time, and really work with some of that interesting topography that you have here. And so here's kind of zooming out now. Here's kind of that overall vision in 3 dimensions. And so you can see that, yes, there's a lot of development. There's density, but there's also public amenities. There's existing green space that's enhanced, new green space, bike lane or trail, where there was a road that really would be, I think, the destination, the gem of an entire regional system. Public plazas, improved sidewalks, new streets, Daylit Creek, and a mix of retail and office and hotel. Again, you know, it might not look like a lot, the retail and some of these public plazas. Here's that tiny little plaza, but it's really meaningful in that space. And it's what the economics of some of the density of development allow for. And I can't underscore enough the importance of having these interconnected streets. You know, the opportunity to get people that are using this development off of your main streets quickly and park so that they can, and with attractive streets, wide sidewalks, right? That encourage walking, encourage biking, and all of that could be linked to bike and pedestrian facilities on College Avenue, transit. It's really this park being the real jewel of the development, but by no means the only one in this. So it's got a lot to talk about in terms of market, and you all sent a lot of written questions. We want to be responsive to those. I think we'd like to pause here, you know, and time dependent. You all tell us how much time you have. And, you know, we'd love to hear your comments and thoughts about these community benefits and the degree to which we've responded to comments about those and the public feedback that we've got.
I gotta say it. I like the illustration as far as the expansion of the park. I think it does send a message with all the green space and everything around and through there. My vision down there probably would, if you wanted to be a pure destination, also off of the lake, it probably would require, in my mind, more retail than what you've demonstrated there. But that's fine. I think what you've done, as you have shown, and I'm gonna let Bob and Fran address it because they're the experts on this, but the reality of it is, I do think by expanding or showing the expansion of the park, I think it does send a message that we do want it to be more than it currently is. But like I say, I'm disappointed in the amount of, I thought there would have been more retail down there since we're trying to let that be the attraction, so to speak. And I'll leave it at that.
So Matt, I like what you did. I really do. It's good, but I'm looking forward to hearing about the trade-offs, right? So you gave us the shiny object. That's great. But hopefully the next session we'll learn what is the cost of doing it. You know, is this a Faustian bargain? We're going to lose our soul for the benefit now, or is the continuity of your message going to be how the trade-offs are not so onerous that they really do erase good stuff? So, but I like what you did. I think most people would agree with what you're suggesting. I think that you showed us the agreeable part first. I think we need to also see the maybe disagreeable parts there.
Yeah, I'm fascinated, Matt, that you not once mentioned student housing, because you know how we feel about that. And there was no discussion of how, as Fran has pointed out many times, in that center that you keep talking about with the boardwalk, oh, adults will use that. Not if it's surrounded by student housing, they're not. There's no evidence of that. In addition, every market that we've looked at it tells us that we need adult multifamily housing. And it may house students, that's fine, but it needs to be adult, more multi-purpose, multifamily housing, if that's the way to put it. And that seems to be totally minimized on this, where it could have gone around that boardwalk and been a place where people could bring their young kids instead of having that lovely space, as you keep saying, dedicated to students. Since we last talked, we're seeing a significant expansion of a student housing area that is, I don't know if it's way off campus anymore, across the lake. And so that will further decrease the pressure for student housing. So I'm disappointed, again, that there is not more retail, as John would say, and more adult and family-oriented housing.
So before we go back like 3 slides, there's a legend on the left-hand side that shows the amount of commercial space, retail space, student housing up there on the top left. So make sure everybody, I know it was in smaller print, but I just want to make sure everybody did see that. And that's, and I could barely read the top part of the acreage.
Yeah,
that's 15 acres.
15.3.
Okay, and then obviously you see the student beds, possible hotel, the percentage of square foot of retail, percentage of square foot of office, green space, almost 3 acres, and then 1 mile of streetscape, and of course, 13 plus parking space. But I just want to reiterate that. But I know we're short on time. Matt, we appreciate the presentation today. We look forward to the next part of it, and I'm gonna look at Andy, because I know we have, what are we looking at? We need to, I feel like, so we don't rehash. I mean, this was a good leeway into the second part of this. Where should we schedule the follow-up work session?
I would make one comment kind of along the lines of what John was saying on the Kiwi Trail component of it. I like the retail the way it's laid out, because you have a lot on the street, and what you have down there on the trail park side of it is, I've done my shopping up here. I mean, this is a very walkable, tiny, small area. So by the time I get down to the park, I'm in a restaurant where I sit, or an area where I'm active in the kayak rental. So you've got a destination. I kind of disagree with you. I say it a little bit differently. I mean, I feel like you do get a lot of,
And
you
you
get a lot
got,
of retail in the whole block, and then you reach your destination down there at the park and the trail where, I've done my shopping, now I'm having a drink and the park, and it's just a different way.
I understand what you're saying. I mean, I'm not saying that we need a whole lot more. I just feel like there'd be a little bit more if you really wanted to attract people to that, particularly if they're coming off the lake. And I'd like to think that they were going to get a certain amount of that. I'd love to see, hopefully, that Tony and Core will get together and we can clean up a lot of that waterfront through there and make that much more visible, not only from our side looking out, but from the outside looking in as far as all that's concerned. But I do like the fact that they've expanded the park and all of that. I think it sends the message to the master developer, because he's not necessarily going to follow this, this plan at all.
Sometimes I want to go to my retail, just slow down the right water.
And I think about something like, and I think there's plenty of retail space on that side to do those things, but if you think of somewhere like Hampton Station, that is basically a brewery and White Duck Taco are your 2 things there, and that's become a giant destination. If you could, I think there's space down there to do at a minimum that, or probably more already with what they have there. So.
Okay.
And again, I think, it's just us looking at it differently.
But I think we get to the point though, where, we've sent the message, we really want that to look
Nice.
like,
Cool.
right. A lot of all those words.
I'm going to eat and have a drink and
All
be
right.
active, not when I'm going to shop.
Before we wrap up real quickly, and I know there may be conflicting meetings, so could we do the wrap up portion? I'm just throwing out there Tuesday, May 31st before city council. I know, but we're saying if that could be possibly rescheduled. I'm not saying that this takes precedence, just trying to get the
You
time.
might do it like 5:30 or something. Or
I don't know what time she'll meet.
Could we do our meeting at noon that day?
So maybe that.
I can't do
I can't do noon.
I can't do noon.
We have an EEI meeting at that time.
Could y'all maybe, I'm just asking, could we maybe, so we keep this fresh on everybody, but we also want to have that meeting the same next week as well? Is there an alternative date?
They could, a lot of things work to fit y'all later in the week.
Well, I'm leaving town.
I could do a 5 to 5:30 Tuesday or Wednesday.
I guess we need to ask Matt and Miriam. if they-
Yeah, everybody
that's
knows
most-
as well.
All right, so Matt, if we have this Tuesday, May 31st for the follow-up to the second section, May 31st at, let's say 5, and then, or Wednesday, June 1st at what time? 4, 5. Oh, like,
That's a change Tuesday's time.
okay. So Tuesday at 5 or Wednesday at 4 or 5?
If we do Wednesday, it has to be at 5.
Okay, Wednesday at 5. So between the two of you, are y'all available either one of those times or both of those times? I'm seeing head nods.
All time stated in Eastern.
There you go. Eastern, of course. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Don't work.
Wednesday at 5 seems to fit in better with.
Wednesday at 5.
Meeting.
All right.
We can still have our meeting.
Wednesday at 5 too.
Wednesday at 5, we can still meet Tuesday.
Works.
You think so?
Everybody hear that? Wednesday at 5.
This is how we do 30 minutes?
No, I'm saying if we do this, meeting Wednesday at 5,
Wednesday.
that will give us a full hour on Tuesday. And we can just stay with our schedule for.
Yes, so we're gonna do this meeting on Wednesday.
Correct.
Right.
Wednesday,
Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday at
Okay,
5.
I'm good.
So everybody have the next work session Wednesday, June 1st at 5 o'clock. Thank you very much. Thank you, Marion and Matt. We appreciate it. And thanks,
Thank you.
Rick, for getting us up to speed. So
I'm running late.
have a great weekend. We're
Thank you. Have a
adjourned.
great weekend.
Thank you.
Bye.